Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our last session of the Connection Summit 2021, where we will be discussing some new possibilities in evolving home services bundles. Before we get started, I'd like to give a special thank you to our sponsors for this event, Alarm.com for registration, Airties for our breaks, AmTrust Specialty Risk, and Plume as our silver level sponsors as well. I'm Kristen Hannock, a senior analyst here at Parks Associates. If you were in my earlier session, I mentioned that I cover a few different markets here at Parks, including home service providers, health, as well as consumer electronics devices. Before we really dive into our discussion, I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss some of the trends that we have been seeing over the past few years. One of the things that we have been increasingly seeing over the past, not just 5 years, but the past 10 years or so, is the erosion of what we call the traditional home service bundle. So bundles of maybe a broadband internet service, pay TV, home phone, and mobile. Increasingly, we see that consumers are choosing to just purchase a home internet service on its own from their service provider. In order to counteract traditional bundle decline, operators have been experimenting really increasingly with offering different types of new services. Oftentimes, but not always, these services are offered as value adds to existing broadband customers. Consumers have shown really a great willingness to adopt these new types of services offered by their service providers. We did a study back in 2019 on the subject and found that nearly half of US broadband households reported adopting at least one type of tested value-added service from their home internet provider. So certainly there is a market there, as well as new opportunities to do some very exciting things. So we have a really great lineup of panelists here today to discuss really some of the opportunities within this market. Starting things off, it is my pleasure to introduce Nicole Zhang, who is the CMO of Minim. Nicole, can you tell us maybe a little bit about yourself and about Minim and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Nicole Hayward Zhang. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Minim. At Minim, we're focused on making everyone's smart home safe and easy to use. We deliver AI-driven Wi-Fi management and security services to both service providers and consumers. Minim is the exclusive trademark license holder for the Motorola connectivity products, including cable modems, gateways, routers, MoCA, and mesh. You can find our hardware products in leading retailers, and this year we are launching Motorola hardware with our ISP customers. To that end, we serve about 130 ISPs with our software platform and partner with other hardware brands as well. Back to me to round this out. I'm also the advising CMO at Aliro Quantum, which is unlocking the quantum internet. For those large ISPs in the room interested in geeking out, find me later. Prior to Minim, I held the position of CMO at cloud software companies Antidote Technologies and OnSIP, as well as served as a board member of the Alliance of Channel Women. And kind of uniquely as a marketer, as for my educational background, I hold 2 bachelor's degrees in engineering from Carnegie Mellon University, as well as business certifications from the Wharton School.
Thank you, Nicole. Very interesting to learn about Minim and the work that you're doing there. Next, Adam Hotchkiss, who is the co-founder and VP of Product at Plume. Adam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Plume?
Yeah, hi. I work with service providers with Plume to deploy our cloud-based platform. And the platform is specifically designed to manage consumer experiences inside of the home. And it's being used to replace the traditional bundle that you talked about, which is declining or dying off, with a new smart home bundle. And this is really geared towards solving the problem of churn, which we see is the largest issue to make sure that we take care of. And this is a $50 billion problem in the US today that we're tackling here with the service providers.
Thank you, Adam. Very, very interesting, and definitely eager to dive into that a little bit later today. Next, we have Brett Lasher, who is the Executive Director of New Growth and Development at Cox. Brett, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brett Lasher. I'm the Executive Director of New Growth and Development at Cox Communications, which is basically our innovation arm at Cox Communications. I lead our work around energy and smart resources. For those of you unfamiliar with Cox, we're the third largest MSO, or otherwise kind of the largest privately held telecom company in the U.S., serving 6 million customers and businesses. Part of Cox Enterprises, which just celebrated its 120th anniversary not too long ago, so have been around for quite some time. On the right-hand side, we'll talk a little bit more about kind of our product set and where we're headed. But broadband, which you'll see at the bottom here, is by far and away our largest and most important product here at Cox today. And then you'll see, the other traditional or products, or PSUs as we call them, which have historically been part of the bundle: video, phone, and home life. But if you think about kind of where we're going and a number of items we're working on within innovation, we see a portfolio of connected services that actually sit on top of our broadband pipe as being kind of the future of where we're headed and really important to our business. And so we're looking at things such as energy management, home health care, emergency response, e-learning, and others. We can talk about those in more detail during the panel.
So yeah, certainly some very interesting subjects to cover. But I'd also, so first let's go to Sean Miller, who is president of Point Central, which is a very interesting solution in and of itself. Sean, can you tell us maybe a little bit about yourself and also about Point Central?
Yeah. Hi, Kristen. Well, I guess first off, I'll say thanks to the, looks like we got about 167 attendees here in the last session of the day. So I'm sure we all appreciate everyone being here. As you mentioned, I'm Sean Miller. I'm the president of Point Central. Point Central started 10 years ago now with a focus on residential property managers. So that is the homes or apartments that are rented either on short or long-term basis. And it's about a third of all households in the U.S. today. We tell people we provide an enterprise scale property automation platform. That's sort of a long statement. So what does that mean? I can break it into two simple buckets. Property automation platform, we use this because terms like smart home or smart apartment tend to focus on features that really the resident enjoys. But we consider the resident, but we also think beyond that and think about how we make property managers more efficient and also how we help better protect the assets. And then we think about how we do all that, not only at the individual housing unit level, so in the apartment or in a single home, but also throughout a building or throughout a rental community. And then the second part of what we're doing is sort of doing that at scale. So again, we're not trying to provide, individual devices or a smart home to one individual home that someone in that home, maybe the person who's sort of the IT deployer of it. People see us as a business tool. So we have to make sure our scalability, our reliability, our things like respect for consumer data privacy, et cetera, all meet sort of needs of institutional owners and professional property managers.
So yeah, certainly a lot of challenges in serving the MDU market and then coming up with really the right type of solution to serve enterprises at scale, but very, very exciting and very interested in learning more. So to kick our discussion off, let's maybe look at some of the areas that internet service providers are examining kind of in an immediate sense in order to improve stickiness and satisfaction among their customers. We've seen some very interesting movements, I believe, with OTT video services being offered, as well as new types of Wi-Fi solutions, which is many of your companies really bread and butter, as well as new types of parental control capabilities, new IoT functionalities as well. Nicole, can you maybe kick us off to talk a little bit about really what Minim is seeing in these markets?
Sure. So there's a lot of data out there correlating higher retention rates to the number of bundled plays in a service. I think it's a bit of an observation, though, rather than a prescription. It's also true that today's broadband buyer generations are the app generations, increasingly accustomed to explosive and remarkable choice. So as such, a new but equally rigid bundle could certainly increase ARPU in theory, but also might have a low uptake and desired results. So as a marketer shepherding the Motorola and Minim brands, I come to this problem with a focus on brand loyalty. Think Apple, think Starbucks. Brand loyalty is built on the foundations of a stellar user experience, trust, benefits, and rewards. And in today's day and age, you can also layer in brand ethics and social connection there. So it's more about value than it is about the bundle. And I think that ISPs who will get it right in the long term will have leaned into platform thinking and much faster innovation cycles. For example, instead of one kind of Wi-Fi system, leaders will offer a handful of choices and apps. These services should not just be one, but many. Parental controls is definitely a value add for over 130 ISPs on the Minim platform, and so is whole home Wi-Fi. But not all subscribers have young kids, and not all subscribers have big homes. And we've got the Wirecutters of the world out there educating consumers that they don't need Wi-Fi systems if their homes are under 2,300 square feet. So in summary, the leaders will focus on offering great services that are easy to activate, personalize, and reap rewards for brand loyalty.
Okay, so certainly a lot of improving what they have, and also making sure that you have that stellar user experience to really make sure consumers align well with your brand and your messaging. I'm interested in hearing what the Plume perspective is on this.
Yeah, so from our perspective, in order to combat the fall of the traditional bundle, we've seen an incredible rise with our service provider partners related to the internet package. And so the first place to enhance the service offering is to reimagine what you consider to be a service play and double down on the emboldening the internet offering to the home, such as parental controls or security offerings, and then go into things like physical presence and motion detection inside the house, which we offer as part of our platform. But the second area within that is to make sure that you focus on the core basics and have a good foundation of connectivity, which is what we offer right off the bat. So you can't offer any services unless you have a rock solid foundation of connectivity everywhere in your house all the time, and for all the people inside. So the last thing you want to do on that is personalize the experience. So how are you able to take care of your customers if something goes wrong? Do you have self-help functions? Do you have care, which is proactive, or are you waiting for customers to call? All this together will increase the loyalty that the customer has, and don't give them any reason to leave, and they won't, and your churn will go down.
Okay, so it sounds like these types of solutions are really aimed at improving customer satisfaction. Have we seen that they are also effective in increasing ARPU, or is that more of a secondary consideration?
I can answer from Plume's perspective on service providers. Increasing ARPU is definitely one of the core goals of offering these services. And if you take a look at the landscape, I did my own study based on service providers in the US, and I took a sweeping survey on what service providers charge their customers on a per gigabit per second basis of what they're offering. And if you look at the service providers who have a smart home package and bundle that they offer to those customers, then they're able to charge more than 40% for those service providers that don't have any smart home bundle, if they're just offering kind of a dumb pipe. So we've been able to see, and it's been proven, a 40% increase in ARPU just by offering this enhanced smart home services bundle. And that's something that everybody can do with the platform enabling it.
So yeah, certainly on the park side of things, we've seen a big interest, a big increasing interest in smart home just over the past 5 years, with quite a few consumers just really learning more about it and seeing value in it as well. Okay. And then I'm interested also in some of the additional areas that internet service providers are looking at. ISPs, of course, have a very unique type of relationship with their consumers, with a physical presence within consumers' homes, as well as the ability to roll trucks and personnel and equipment to these locations as well. We've seen some very interesting things that, as Brett mentioned, has been going on in this space: independent living, health services, and also just different types of bundles, new types of video communications, new types of communication tools. Brett, can you go into a little bit more detail with what you're doing at Cox and what you're really looking into?
Sure. So, we talked a little about innovation and kind of core products. So, for example, trying to meet the customers where they want to be or their needs. So, for example, in video, perhaps that's a light video offering like our Contour Stream IPTV offering. But I think, the more exciting thesis that we have is around the convergence of connected service, as you kind of alluded to. And we call this tele-living or life services. Craig Moffett, I think had a really interesting point a number of years ago about kind of redefining the business definition for MSOs as no longer being, cable TV providers or even ISPs, but rather kind of the transport providers or the pipe that these services ride on top of. And those can be any type of services like your traditional video, voice services, or these kind of portfolio of connected services, which we're starting to see more and more interest in. And so for us, those are our traditional home life package, which is our home automation or home security, but then kind of what I call the next generation of services as well. Energy management, home healthcare, as we alluded to, emergency response. And consumers, I think a couple of things. One, they like the ease of having all of those services in one place, perhaps in one single application or platform / interface. And also you can imagine there's value that you can deliver when you have two services in one place. So for example, we're working on an energy management platform that also has control of smart home devices in the home or home automations. So you can imagine when you have visibility into those smart home devices into your home and that portfolio of devices, the impact you can have on energy usage alongside it. So really believe in the convergence of these connected services that ride on top of our pipe.
So certainly a lot of potential for synergy really in all of those services. So I just not too long ago was moderating a panel on independent living and telehealth, as well as the smart home. And certainly there was in that panel a healthy discussion on how smart home and Wi-Fi connectivity could really be turned towards independent living use cases, as well as telehealth use cases as well. So something I think that we are very likely to see a lot of growth in and interest in. Okay. And then Sean, can you maybe also dive in on this subject a little bit?
Yeah. So I build on what Brett said, right? I think MSOs are looking at the space, or in particular MDUs, of, there's a growing demand for better quality internet in these buildings, whether it be to power the home automation services Brett mentioned, or all the telecommuting that we're all doing now. Where we partner with MSOs is to bring our platform in and again help sort of enable all the other services that the owners of those buildings and the staff will look for. So how do you take all those great smart home services or smart apartment services and tie them into things like we have a curb to couch access thing, so people can get throughout the property in a secure and reliable fashion. We integrate with their property management software, so we know who's coming in and out of the building, whether it's for a work order, a new resident, package delivery, et cetera, and sort of behind the scenes are just coordinating and provisioning access and control for all the different devices, whether they be in the individual residence unit or across the property. So we see MSOs as valuable partners in sort of that pitch we have to property owners and residents.
Okay. And then Sean, I have a little bit of a follow-up question for you. So you serve both the single-family residential as well as the MDU markets. So looking at mostly residential MDUs, what are some of the differences you're seeing between these markets in terms of interest in value-added services and the different bundles really being considered?
Yeah, so we can probably split that in a couple of different ways. If you think of the resident, I think a resident in an apartment or resident in a single family starts with sort of similar things. They care about access. Can they get people in and out themselves, their family, the dog walker, whoever, in and out? And can you help them just have a little bit more of a comfortable life that maybe saves them some energy? So think about connected thermostats and energy response programs, et cetera. When you sort of tease out a resident in an apartment, there's a little bit more need around access besides just the front door. You can think about how that ties into parking garage, or more commonly like front intercom and then common areas. And so we've done a lot of work again, how do you synchronize that access so a resident isn't pulling a key out for one thing, a key fob for another, and that for a third, you name it, right? Just make it all seamless and easy. When you look at the other side, like what do operators and owners care about? That's a little bit similar, right? They generally care about things like, how do I make sure this asset yields the right investment? So how do you do things like, we rolled out a program of predictive analytics where we can help landlord property owners understand, is my HVAC unit performing properly? Should I maintain it now when it's a lower cost to maintain it versus wait till it explodes And then, as Nicole mentioned earlier, well, it explodes. That's a much more higher cost point to fix. But as Nicole's mentioned earlier about brand loyalty and the resident experience, now you have an angry resident who in today's world can lift their phone up and light you up in an online review. And so we sort of want to help property managers and asset owners avoid all that. So they'll focus on things like HVAC analytics, water protection. Access is important from a safety of the building standard, as well as cameras and connected intercom systems.
Very cool. Very interesting. Very interesting. And then Adam, what is Plume's kind of take on this? I believe you're also in these markets.
Yeah, specifically talking about MDUs, service providers have about 30% of their customers or more, typically in the MDU market. And one thing that you want to be able to also do inside of the MDUs is personalize the experience for each resident. So if you have apartments where people are living on 6 or 1 year kind of leases, they're going to be living and they're going to connect all their personal devices. They're going to want to have it just like a home like anybody else. So one thing is to help personalize that is to make sure that every customer is able to set their network up. If they have children, for example, how do you moderate the content and screen time on there, and be able to also learn the comings and goings of your home. So how many people are coming as guests? How do they get access to it? What's the busiest time of day? When do your children come home from school and come in the door? What's the health going on in the house? When does everybody go to sleep? When are they waking up? Like, these are the kind of things that are very personal to people, that we'd like to see service providers now start to make available to people through mobile apps and other interfaces, so they can feel more a part of their personalized network experience.
Yes, definitely some exciting developments there. So another question for you all. So do these new services, do they have to necessarily be bundled? So we talked a little bit about value adds for current Wi-Fi networks. We've also talked a little bit about new types of services that could potentially be offered. Are these something that would necessarily always be bundled with home broadband service, or would this be something that internet service providers might benefit from offering standalone, even potentially outside of their footprint? So I'm interested in, I guess, first your perspective, Nicole, and then also Brett, his take.
Great. Yeah. So certainly with the rise of video streaming and platform competition, we know that consumers like choice. We're reaching a new age of personalization, which we've been discussing, where one bundle does not fit all. And if you look at younger generations, that's only becoming more true. A couple stats there. According to Hulu's Generation Stream report, 75% of streamers say they prefer lots of choice to less choice. And the majority of streamers agree that more is more when it comes to entertainment. In fact, 65% of Gen Z streamers watch at least one show that they would say is obscure. So definitely more choice is needed, but choice does not preclude bundling. I think the secret to the new age bundle will be fivefold. One is flexible ways for the subscriber to manage their own bundle. Second, easy ways for the subscriber to manage their own bundle. To create their own bundle and then manage their own bundle. Third is good deals on bundles brokered by the service provider using their strength in numbers. Fourth, a delightful user experience. And finally, an on-demand, digitally assisted, or even self-service support. From network security to entertainment to telehealth to exercise, if toggling a new service for my home is as easy as downloading an app and I can create service savings by doing so, I think that's a strong value proposition of convenience. And sure, if the ISP can save me some money, that's great too. And if it doesn't rely on the underlying hardware to deliver, they might even be able to do that. Service providers might even be able to achieve that outside of their subscriber footprint, which would be a breaking paradigm and an interesting dynamic in the market that would create competition for consumers.
So yes, we've seen some interesting things going on with TV services in particular this past, I don't want to say year because it's 2021, but certainly the past 12 months.
Sure.
And then, Brett, what is your take?
Yeah, I think for us, similar to what Nicole was talking about, our services definitely do not have to be bundled. As she alluded to, flexibility and choice are increasingly important to customers, and so we want to meet them where they are. I think there's some benefits to the bundle, whether that's kind of price or functionality in some instances, but it's certainly not something that's required. I think the other part of your question is, will we sell these other products to customers who aren't broadband customers? And similarly, the answer is yes. Once again, willing to meet the customer where they are. I think the one thing that's important though is that there are some probably benefits to buying services bundled. So for example, if you have our video product and our home automation product, you can actually control home automation through the voice remote that we provide with our Contour product. Or for example, if you have home automation and broadband and a device goes out, how do you know if it's the network or the device that's malfunctioning? A lot easier, kind of one throat to choke, proverbially, if you have a bundled service with one provider. And then I think finally you had mentioned, alluded to kind of where else are we thinking about distribution of these services, and I think Cox as well as other MSOs are starting to get creative, and for us, that can be looking at other channels to sell our products. So for example, in energy management, perhaps partnering with utilities to sell it through utility channels, or also even looking at syndication. So perhaps if we have a product, one of the things we've developed is a pretty unique product in the gaming space, and I think on our roadmap is looking to syndicate that product to other MSOs to sell in their territory. So kind of a B2B2C type relationship as well.
Very interesting, very interesting. And then, Brett, you mentioned that there were quite a number of things on your roadmap, on Cox's roadmap, really across the healthcare space and gaming, connected parenting as well. Are any of those are currently being offered to Cox customers?
Yep. So I'd say there's a couple areas that are a little more mature than others. So on the gaming side of things, we've recently launched Cox Elite Gamer, which is a gaming tool which helps kind of reduce latency and jitter for gaming applications, and now is offered for free as kind of part of an added feature or functionality as part of our panoramic Wi-Fi. We're in the market piloting a number of kind of interesting healthcare initiatives today, similarly around edge computing, about to start piloting some home energy management tools. First pilot, hopefully in that space, is going to launch next month. And then, I've really started to explore the e-learning and kind of connected parenting space. The pandemic and folks learning from home have really kind of accelerated our exploration in that space as well. So a lot of interesting stuff going on in our innovation group, and expect to see more and more products come to market in 2021.
So certainly a very exciting time with 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, we were quite a few of us working at home, and also just spending quite a bit more time in the home. And those of us with maybe just, young children, they're doing remote schooling as well. So a lot of emphasis on Wi-Fi networks, a lot of emphasis on gaming, on remote schooling, and telehealth, as we've mentioned. So certainly a very interesting time.
Sure.
So one of the other big questions that has come up is, in terms of what we've really been seeing this past year, what are some of the new market dynamics that you're all running into just with COVID-19, with the big impact on some of the Wi-Fi networks, in terms of consumer interest in bundles as well? We've heard, I believe, a number of the broadband providers mentioned that they've had really just record high new internet signups and record high interest among their consumers for these types of solutions. And then really anyone wants
to in with our retail partners are reporting a 40% uptick in connectivity product demand. And that just means, consumers are taking these products into their own hands when they're unsatisfied. We've seen a huge uptick in demand for modems, and also in consumers starting to really lock in an understanding of modems and DOCSIS and things that you wouldn't expect even a year ago. So I would say It's moving really fast. That's the market dynamic we've been seeing. We've been, with Broadcom, with different chipset vendors, we've been working on, just speeding up timelines and creating product. And I think it's for ISPs a really fast-moving train. And it's really impressive that Brett was mentioning that Cox has rolled out all of these new services and is adapting so quickly. I think ISPs have a history of not moving as quickly, and it's impressive to see a lot of them now leading the way, especially Cox.
Yeah, I can give from the service provider side. We see, of course, a lot of these types of networks, and during COVID, the use of the network became, during the daytime, became hugely popular for people working at home, as you might imagine. What we found was, even though the load on the network rose dramatically, the systems handled it very well from the capacity side. Of course, everybody was kind of preparing for this for a long time. So, this is just the thing we like to see, that the network didn't crumble when everybody started working at home. And we saw that it became more important than ever to have a dynamic system inside of your home. Because if you're sitting here, for example, talking to you over a video conference, and your kids are watching movies or playing games, you need to have a real dynamic system to take care of that and have some cloud control over it. So we really saw our benefits come into full play during this time. And I think the next thing that we see is that the criticality of keeping the systems up and running for every consumer became mission critical for them. Now, downtime is money time. You're losing. So making sure that the customers are able to see what's happening on the network and able to fix it, when a problem does arise, and kind of the rise of self-help mechanisms within these systems and tools are now becoming table stakes for any carrier out in the world.
Kristen, if I can jump in, I can share a slightly different perspective. If I started the first part of your question on the impact, we saw things like delivery. Again, people suddenly needed food delivered, staples delivered, et cetera. So how do we help enable package delivery and food delivery? That maybe wasn't something a building would think about before, or even a single family home would think about. And then things like unattended showings. Like, these are things we actually pioneered unattended showings 5 years ago, and it was very common in single family rentals, but multifamily didn't have a lot of interest in it. Suddenly now they needed it, right? They couldn't show a unit in person, or they didn't want to. And so how do they get that going? So those were big drivers of sort of demand outside of just work from home, like we discussed. As we saw that shift into what did that mean on the network, I'd agree with the comments about general networks, I think performed well. We work on sort of a dual band network, so we can plug into a local broadband and or use a cellular connection back. So what that allowed us to do, if a building didn't have broadband, obviously we could stand it up. But even if a building did, there's typically areas where there's no broadband, right? So we can think of a front intercom that's typical a telephone-based system or a gate. So we can still look across a property or community and figure out how do you support the needs of these suddenly significantly growing use cases.
And if I may, just to kind of put a point on it, I think one, to echo my colleagues on the panel, we saw a huge uptick in usage. Networks were able to handle it. Our investment in fiber, kind of ahead of the growth, really helped meet the demand. We saw customers start to up tier with regards to speeds, and we believe that will continue. But from a network and broadband perspective, things perform remarkably well. I'd say two additional trends that I'd note is that with folks spending a lot more time at home, connected services in the home become that much more interesting and appealing. So, for example, energy usage in the home, folks are seeing 30 to 40% increased energy usage at home, and so energy management tools to increase energy efficiency and reduce energy bills, increasingly important for home users. Gaming acceleration, for example, as well. And then I'd say the other trend we saw is just with the importance of the internet to function for your job or for education, just the digital divide became exposed. And so, those households who are either underserved or privileged, the difficulty they may have had with connectivity. And, I think Cox and other MSOs really stepped up with some of our programs to help deliver that, whether that was our Connect to Compete program or other programs that we continue to look at to help serve those homes. So, hopefully, Cox and other ISPs will continue that trend as we continue to be contained in our homes.
I just want to echo that. It's a great point on infrastructure. We're seeing with our WISPs, first of all, the Connect America Fund is really helping a lot of ISPs at the moment build out infrastructure into underserved areas. And I would say in addition, and perhaps sort of helped by that, our WISPs are really focused on hybrid deployments for reliability as well. So, a natural disaster hits and homes are out of service. Now they can't work. Now they can't get medical help and all sorts of things. So in addition to network expansion, there's also a lot of network redundancy that's happening, a lot of good work from smaller ISPs and larger ISPs there.
So certainly some very impressive actions being taken by internet service providers and also the whole community of connectivity. So we've had very impressive network performance, I think, compared to what we've heard in Europe was the case. But we have saved a little bit of time for questions from the audience, and I'd like to make sure that we can answer those. So audience members, if you have any additional questions, I definitely would recommend getting them in now. Just so we could hopefully, save time and tackle those. But the first question in is aimed at Brett. So we have an audience member who is interested in a little bit more detail around the connected parenting solution that you mentioned.
Yeah, I'd say, one, this is kind of early days for us. And so it's something that we have studied and, probably early on in the funnel for us. But we think about connecting parenting in a few different ways. Around kind of safety, around education, and then around kind of support services, and kind of the safety aspect of connected parenting is probably the largest and most important. So things around parental controls, tools to help with online bullying, things of that nature. And so that combined with e-learning is something we're really starting to have interest in and explore as part of our innovation team.
Yes, so it's the year 2021, and we have all sorts of modern solutions that can definitely make parents and children's lives easier. So there is another question. This one is aimed at Nicole. So we have an audience member that is interested in learning more about data security and how your tech can personalize to a range of behaviors in a home that might have 3 to 4 generations of family members under the same roof. So kind of a large multi-generational family.
Sure. So our platform, first and foremost, is built on proprietary fingerprinting technology. So early days when we started building, we said we can't secure it and we can't manage it if we can't identify it. So we started building a pretty comprehensive database of consumer IoT and studying the behaviors of this IoT, what kind of servers they talk to, how big of packets they send, all sorts of things, while staying away from what's called deep packet inspection, which is a no-no in many countries for privacy. And basically, we offer a comprehensive, multifaceted security approach. Part of our security is also parental controls, because a lot of consumers would deem that as security, and a lot of the features that Brett mentioned we offer as well. But we also do things such as malware detection based on lots and lots of feeds that we collect throughout the world. We do anomaly detection based on the typical behavior of a device. And all the intel that we sort of build, we bring to the forefront in the mobile app in a very consumable way for the user. A lot of the threats we can automatically block and just let the user that we've blocked it know that we've blocked it. They also have the ability to set more stringent security controls if they'd like, which could come with some annoyances of clicking on a link and then saying, oh, blocked because it's not a kosher link. And so so we provide very usable, we like to call it usable security. And in our mobile app, we take it a step further by educating the end user about the security concern that might be on their network. It could just be a device that is unrecognized and giving them the option to allow or deny it. And so it's also a sort of educational experience on our platform.
Very neat, very neat. Thank you for that overview. So we have another question in from the audience, wanting to know what each of you is really the greatest challenge that you expect to face in 2021. Of course, during 2021, as we all hope the pandemic will come to an end, we'll have the vaccines that have been approved a little bit more widely distributed, and we should expect maybe it to be situation normal by, if not the summer, then the fall. So what sort of challenges are you maybe expecting under this kind of scenario? And then maybe we can start with Adam.
Sure. So, well, number one on our goal here with service providers is to reverse the trend of the traditional bundle dying. So we want to reverse that by creating more services to add on to the strong growth of the internet packages that people are buying, and then reimagine or redefine what the new bundle is around that smart home experience. So getting that to scale to as many consumers as possible is the number one goal. And then on top of that, we want to make sure that the service is ultra reliable. And so we spend a lot of time analyzing the data that's coming, the metadata that's coming in from the network to be able to determine who's happy, who's unhappy, why they're unhappy, and how we can fix it. So we want to make sure that if there are people out there who are struggling with their service, that we can reach out to them and help them make sure that they don't churn. So this reduction of churn goes in both ways, adding new services and making sure that you can reach out and give that personalized help when needed to make sure they don't churn.
All right, thank you, Adam. So Brett, can you maybe talk a little bit about what you expect to be a biggest challenge in 2021?
Sure. So I think our biggest goal, our biggest challenge is to accelerate the commercialization of some of the innovation that's taken place in our organization the past couple of years. I think we've some great advancements and some great innovation that we've done across various kind of themes or groups. And a number of these products are ready, I think, to hit the market either for pilots or real commercialization. The pandemic has made it more difficult, to facilitate business meetings and to press flesh and make those connections. And so I think it's slowed the sales cycle down a little bit. But I think we have this great pipeline of products. We're really excited to get out there and just interfacing with customers is probably the biggest challenge for us in the upcoming year.
So yes, and it's certainly going to be exciting to see what Cox introduces this next year. Sean, what are maybe some of the big challenges that Point Central is expecting, or challenges and opportunities, I should say?
So I mean, a big thing for us that we launched right at the end of last year was this whole seamless curb to couch experience, right? So tying in intercom to access control to resident doors and common areas. So that's a big need we've heard people talking about. One of the things that's unique for us is we architect a way to do that without having to rip and replace all the existing hardware in there. So you can work with the existing intercom and we can work with the existing readers, et cetera, by simply changing out one control board, typically in the closet in an apartment that is jammed with wires. So trying to really make sure this technology and all these great things that we've sort of been talking about all day are more easily accessible to residents, property managers, and owners. That's sort of a big push for us. We've heard for several years that people want this. When we were talking about bundling earlier, it sort of triggered my mind. Outside of the resident bundling, to me, like in an MSL like Cox, or one of the partners we work with runs fiber to a building, there's also an opportunity to bundle things like us that to the resident may not cost them anymore, may just be part of the amenity of living in that building, but it does bundle services to staff and to the owner, and that helps justify the overall ROI of that running the fiber to the building and putting up all the access points and everything else that you have to do to sort of bring these connections online. So I'm also really excited to see how that accelerates because people are starting to think about it holistically now and not just single one-off pieces of technology that they're analyzing.
I see. Certainly sounds like some big opportunities there and some exciting developments. And then Nicole, can you maybe tell us a little bit about really Minim and what you expect to be some of big challenges for 2021 and also maybe big opportunities?
Yeah, like Brett mentioned, I think a lot of it is going to be in acceleration and specifically accelerating innovation to meet the stronger consumer demands. With the work from home movement, for example, it's staggering how vulnerable businesses are as they go remote. I like to say that the office network has exploded into employee homes, but IT assistance has not. And the Minim platform is currently showing 59% of home networks have malware detected. So, earlier this year, we launched a Bring Your Own Network solution, and basically we made our tools available both to the consumer and to their employer if they choose to share their network with the employer to get IT assistance, and then even selectively show exactly what devices they would like help with. And I think that was a big push internally, and it was fast to market. I'm proud of the team. But I think as we look at creating a really usable experience and helping educate the consumer as they're dealing with 20 plus connected devices on the home and all of these competing devices, we're really going to need to transform support and into digital support. And then we're also really going to need to work together. I think it'll be interesting to see, especially with service providers, and I'm interested in Brett's feedback on this actually, is how much co-branding there is with third parties versus, let's start a year-long project to integrate, build our own UI, and then roll it out as our own, which, time to market. So I think there will be some give and takes for acceleration. And one last thing on acceleration I'll say is certainly supply chain. We're seeing cycles that used to be 4 to 5 years, and replacing your routers is now 2. So it's supply chain is important as well, especially with the trade environment that we're in politically.
Okay. But yes, thank you all for joining us today for the Connection Summit. I'm very, very happy with our discussion, and I think we really learned a lot today. So very, very happy for you all to join us. But unfortunately, that is all we have time for, unless you will be joining us maybe for some of our upcoming panels in the future. But before we close out the day, I would like to again thank our great sponsors for really making this possible. Again, our Alarm.com sponsor for registration, AmTrust Specialty Risk and Plume as silver sponsors, and Airties for our break. And also these great supporters who have really helped us with our event, as well as our wonderful speakers for really making everything possible here today. Again, we have changed up our Connections community for 2021 in terms of the format. So instead of our individual conferences, we are going to be running our events more or less all year, separated into different tracks. And I'm hoping that you will join us for the track of your interest on these dates. But yes, thank you all for joining us for our Connection Summit at CES. Looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Parks, and I am the president of Parks Associates. Welcome to Connection Summit at CES. This is our 15th annual event to host in partnership with CTA and CES. We thank them for the invitation again to participate as a partner and for their support throughout the year. We also want to thank you for your attention and participation today as we share more data and continue to have great conversations about the growth of the connected home. I'd like to take a moment and highlight a few things about Parks Associates. If you aren't aware, Parks Associates is entering its 35th year in business in 2021. In 1986, Parks Associates was founded by Tricia Parks, our CEO, my mom, and my best mentor. She started Parks Associates following her VP of Research position at Future Computing. Since then, we have helped thousands of companies navigate the connected consumer industries, providing insights, consumer and industry data, and trends on technology enabling smart home and connected entertainment applications and services. Our research practice is fairly traditional. Each year we produce over 100 syndicated reports, studies, trackers, and market assessments. About half of our research practice for our clients is custom work. We do anything from focus groups to consumer survey work to quarterly business reviews, go-to-market strategy, and consulting using Parks Associates data as the foundation of knowledge. We study the connected home across two large categories: the smart home, including home security, smart home devices, energy management solutions, and health and independent living, and the connected consumer electronics and entertainment category, covering CE devices, entertainment services and content, and broadband services. We also look at the SMB market, given that many technologies for the consumer market also apply in that environment. We also closely study all the technologies and standards that impact the home across all applications and services, like 5G and 10G, support services, AI, and machine learning. We also typically host 6 executive conferences each year in person, bringing together over 3,000 senior executives in technology. We have 3 smart home and home security events, including Connections Summit at CES, our signature Connections Conference, this year celebrating its 25th year, our Connections Europe event, our Smart Energy Summit in February, our Connected Health Summit in August, and our Future of Video event in December. In addition, we have custom marketing services where we offer sponsorships of our white paper and webinar content with lead gen services. This year, we will be presenting our events virtually throughout the year, offering a unique opportunity to listen to our analysts and industry leaders. Parks Associates' mission is to be the leading provider of knowledge for the technology industries, facilitating better business decisions and providing best-in-class networking experiences. In 2021, our smart home research will focus on the state of the smart home market and tracking adoption and use of devices, the unified consumer experience, barriers to adoption, the buyer journey, new areas of opportunity like air quality, and smart home opportunities in MDUs and multifamily environments. Our home security research is focused on tracking usage, attrition, analysis of providers, opportunities with adjacent markets, new competition, and purchase triggers and trends, among other topics. Our annual security dealer study, which will be in its 9th year in 2021, helps us better understand the dealer mindset, and especially in 2020, the shifts that have occurred for this important group. In energy management, we'll take a look at adoption of EVs, solar, demand response programs, and how the smart home can help utilities achieve some of the net zero goals in place. This is an enormous topic of conversation in 2021. In the past year, we've seen sales of CE devices at their highest since 2012. We will continue to track adoption of the most mature categories and the emerging device categories like mesh networks and various home networking equipment. This area of our business is foundational to our knowledge of the consumer at home. Connectivity is driving everything right now for the use of technology, along with the devices that enable new applications and experiences for consumers. Our 2021 broadband research is focused on the state of the broadband market, transformation of communications for consumers at home, and shifting preferences for fixed versus wireless services. As a result of connectivity and device adoption in the home, disruption in digital media continues on. Our entertainment content research in 2021 will analyze gamers, consumption of digital media, and the impact of new formats like short-form content. Pay TV services have been in decline as OTT services have been on the rise. Entertainment is also a huge area of focus for Parks Associates. And in 2021, we will continue to track the OTT market through our OTT tracker and provide extensive consumer and industry insights on new business models, subscription services, and consumer video consumption. Connected health is another important topic we've been focused on for almost 15 years. This year, obviously, COVID has had a remarkable impact on consumers and their healthcare. Our research in this area is focused on the technologies, the devices, and the services in the home that can support consumers living safely and independently as long as possible. Lastly, our support research covers the professional support market for consumers and a focus on the SMB markets. As the home continues to be a more complex environment, consumers will seek professional support to ensure their devices work, as well as consider additional services that might add additional value. Remote work is also a huge driver of support services for consumers at home and all size businesses. We hope that if you're considering any market research needs, you consider Parks Associates. As a small family-owned and woman-led business, we understand the importance of a partner with a foundation based on integrity and excellence. Our team is dedicated to the support of these industries through reliable and accurate insights and an understanding of the players and their ecosystems. If you want to brief with our team, participate in our events, need extensive research, or just want to catch up on the latest research we have, please visit our website at www.parksassociates.com or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn or via email at eparks@parksassociates.com. We look forward to working with you in 2021. Please send us any feedback on your experience at Connection Summit at CES or any of our research. We wish you the best in 2021 and look forward to talking with you soon.